Should you join a podcast network? Hi, I'm Hank from Free Podcast Tools, and this time I'm going to be talking about should you join a podcast network. I'm going to talk about it from someone joining a network and someone running a network, because I've done both. If you've been in podcasting for any length of time, then you've heard of podcast networks. Oftentimes it's a group of same category or similarly themed shows that group together, and they believe that working together they can grow their shows bigger than if they all went separately and did it by themselves. For instance, like a sports network or a TV show network or a technology network. Sometimes you'll see a group of podcasts clumped together like that in a single category, and they all promote each other's shows. Since I've both been a part of and run podcast networks, I wanted to just give you my opinion, but if you have different experiences, please chime in the comments down below. On the pros, I've seen these podcast networks thrive when they have high quality content and very similar audiences. I've also seen networks where the hosts all run the same equipment and it's good equipment and they get it for free. So that can be another pro. Another pro, you might not have to pay for hosting. All of those things might be taken care of for you, so then there's no cost for you to incur. Another pro, you could have access to other hosts who can fill in on your show if you need to take a break, or if your co-host needs to take a break, or if you just want to add guests to your show. You've got a whole pool of people to pull from. Networking with other podcasters could also lead to other endeavors like meetups, or you might create an app together, or speaking engagements. A lot of other stuff aside from podcasting can be the result of these networks. Another pro is potentially you have a built-in audience. So instead of starting from zero, you might come into a network that already has hundreds or even thousands or even tens of thousands of subscribers, and you have access to try to sway some of those to come listen to your show. Another pro on this would be sometimes you can sign network deals that you wouldn't get unless you were part of a bigger network. Oftentimes, single shows don't have enough downloads to entice advertisers, but if you have a network of multiple shows and you pool all your downloads together, and having a centralized location for all the shows can help you in search and be very beneficial when people are looking for your content. Another pro for joining a network is brand recognition. I know there are networks out there where I see the logo and I instantly know that they belong to that specific network. So it can help when you're perusing through stuff. If you find quality content on one of their shows, odds are you could find quality content in their other shows. And lastly, just for my opinion, you could get some popularity by association. Sometimes these networks will have one show that kind of stands out above the rest, but since you're aligned with that show, you can garner some extra press and a bigger spotlight because one of those shows is really big. Let's talk about the cons, and I'm going to talk about the cons from a individual joining a network, and then I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of running the network. So if you're an individual joining a network, one of the cons is the network could blow up in a bad way, implode, if you will. And I've certainly seen that happen a lot of times in my nearly 16 years of podcasting. So it's certainly a possibility, and that can be very off-putting. Another con is egos can get out of control, and that spins into our next con, which not everybody on the network is going to be friends. Oftentimes you'll have certain hosts that just don't get along, but they're on the same network. So you have to be careful if you're thinking about joining a network, if you're going to have any of these situations arise. Another really big con is who owns what. So if things implode and it's time to leave, do you own your RSS feed? Do you own your show name, the domain name? There's all sorts of legalities in that. All of that can become a nightmare. And lastly, unfortunately, I've seen this one play out up close, guilty by association. So if someone on the network says or does something that is frowned upon, now you get lumped in with that individual. Now I'm going to give you some cons from running podcast networks. And these are just my opinions. If you have a different experience, please chime in the comments below. If you're getting value from this video and my channel, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, so when you run a network, what you do for one host, you're probably going to have to do for the other hosts. So I've sent out thousands of dollars worth of equipment over the years to co-hosts and potential hosts. And sadly to say, a lot of that equipment is just sitting somewhere, maybe pawn shops or maybe somebody's closet or garage. And that can be frustrating, which rolls into my next con. Equipment aside, the cost can be great. So you got to think about other stuff, hosting and websites and marketing and artwork. You have to think about all those things. Another con, if you run a network, sometimes people believe that there's more money than there actually is. Oftentimes someone will think that there's some big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that you have access to, and it oftentimes is just not true. Another con for running a network, people often quit. Happens all the time, and sometimes there's a reason, sometimes there's no reason. Sometimes they give you advance notice, and sometimes they don't. So you have to have contingency plans for people quitting, because they will. One that I've experienced firsthand is trying to get people to understand about taxes. So they'll see a dollar amount for donations and stuff like that, but they don't understand bills and expenses, and more often than not, taxes. So you have to be careful with that. Remember, none of this is advice. This is just for entertainment purposes only. And lastly, I've experienced this firsthand. If you want to participate in award shows, but you have content that's all in the same category, how does that work out, get figured out and resolved? Honestly, you should have a lawyer draw up some stuff in advance when you discuss show ideas, episode ideas, artwork, domain names, all of that stuff. You should have all that worked out with a lawyer. All parties should sign the document, and then there's nothing hidden. There's no surprises. I've been threatened with litigation twice, and fortunately, I have survived both times without having to go to court and got things taken care of. So just be careful if you join a network. Make sure you answer all these questions, and there might be other questions you have. Definitely pop those down in the comments section, or any experiences that you've had personally. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more videos on Free Podcast Tools.